Did you know that when somebody dials 911, it's recording while it's ringing? Did you know that?
Right. I did.
I didn't know that until this week.
Yeah. No, our local 911 has had, I'm trying to remember who told me that. Might have been Ben. I don't know. Anyway, somebody I know that works in at the police department had mentioned that.
I didn't know that, and I heard it on a podcast. No, Heather told me, because she does all those crazy podcasts. Anyway, everybody, welcome to the Make Trades Great Again podcast. This is Eric, and that is Andy, and we usually start the podcast out talking about something totally unrelated to the topic, and that was it. When you call 911, it's already recording before they pick up.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Do you know you don't even have to answer them?
What do you mean?
Like if you bump it, like hit dial 911, you don't even have to now anyway. If you're calling from a cell phone, you don't have to answer or even say anything, and then they'll identify your location from your cell service.
Yeah.
And basically just listen to you one-sided of what's going on and figure out what's trying to determine what they need.
You know how they figured, you know how GPS works, right?
Yeah.
Well,
like
do you though?
Yeah.
Between government drones, which are
birds.
Birds.
Pigeons.
Why do you think it's so accurate? So how many? You go outside, how many birds you see right now? Thousands.
That's why I've eliminated all of the pigeons here.
Yeah, yeah. You ever see a baby pigeon?
Never seen one.
Nope, never seen one. It's because there aren't such a thing. Anyway,
they don't exist.
They don't exist. They're government drones. When they're on the power line, that's when they're recharging.
Right. That makes sense.
I don't know why people question this. So our topic today, though, is fascinating too. I think. You had a job. I saw you post a video the other day on Instagram, and it was interesting. And I got almost kind of nervous at the very beginning of your video, because you're like, we had a space pack already like partially installed in this system, this cooling system. We had this whole, piece of equipment ready to go. That's what we were going to do. And then you're like, but I ripped it out, and I'm like, oh no, what is he going to start bashing his space pack all of a sudden? Like what?
Yeah.
And so I had to watch it, and I was surprised to hear you say you were going to go one way with a piece of equipment for this cooling system, and it sounded to me like you got cold feet in a way. Like that was how you presented it. And so I'm going to let you describe what the heck is I'm even talking about, because you can do a better job, obviously, than I can.
Yeah. So this is a customer that I've worked on this house, better part of 15 years. I mean, prior to me owning a business, I worked for these people. Very nice house, very nice. All concrete construction. So concrete exterior walls, 8-inch thick concrete walls with framed walls inside of that. Ultra efficient. Sure. It's like 4-inch slab on grade with pan deck. So it's all on red iron in a 4-foot crawl space. Spray foam the entire bottom, like 6,300 square feet. So the entire bottom of the pan deck it's got 4 inches of spray foam on it.
You'd think that, I mean, by the time they put a crawl space in, why didn't they just have a slab on grade?
I don't know. I'm not sure. So anyway, we were going to put this space pack unit in there, the space pack Solstice. It was a 5-ton air source heat pump, air to water heat pump. And I was kind of excited. Yeah. I was kind of excited for it because in the house we have a Viessmann CU3A that we put in last year. We have 7 zones of radiant. So all that pan deck concrete is radiant floor slab heat, including the garage and whatnot. And then they have 4 air handlers, and the 4 air handlers are kind of zoned for the different parts of the house, but they've never had the air conditioning hooked up. And part of it is that the installing contractor, everybody's got different stories on what they thought happened there, but the units were too big. They were too big, and the homeowner had complained for years that when the backup or the second stage of heat comes on, if they have a problem, second stage of heat is a hot water coil that energizes the fan on these air handlers,
Yeah.
and they're just super noisy. And I
Air
so
handlers
last
themselves?
yeah, so last winter I was there, and I'm like, okay, we're doing going through the tweaking on this CU3A and the new system, and we fired one up, and I was like, holy cow, dude, that thing is like sounds like a jet engine in the house. Just yeah, well, no, just the air velocity. Yeah, just I mean, like blow the curtains off the wall, like back away from. There are all these big
Oh,
ultra modern linear diffusers, so they're like 8 foot long diffusers on the floor. I
yeah,
mean, it's just anyway, it poorly designed,
sure.
and so I thought, well, we're gonna let's do this. I've been looking at this project for 2 years, like kind of trying to come up with a concept, an idea. We've back and forth. The homeowner is a surgeon, very intelligent man, and we just hadn't come up with a good plan that we were both on board with. And he had finally says, "Hey, we need to pull the trigger on this." And I hadn't made it a priority. It just was one of those jobs that was like, I don't know, one of these days we'll figure out what they want to do. And they
Yeah.
haven't had air conditioning for 18 years. I mean, it's not like it's some sort of imminent, got to have it now. And so I settled on this air to water heat pump. And I thought, well, I'm just going to run chilled water through those hot water coils. And then we'll go in, we'll do some air balancing, and we'll get the air handlers turned down, and it'll probably be fine, But this is going to be a cool way to do it, and maybe I'll screw around with trying to do radiant slab cooling, because it's this big high mass slab. If we could get the slab down to 68 degrees or something like that, we'd be golden. It'd be awesome. And he and I talked, and I said, "Yep, nope, this is good. I'm good with this. Let's do it."
And and that's where you went with the space pack? That's how you
That's
arrived there?
Yep, that's how we arrived there.
Is that a
And
monoblock system? How does that work? I don't,
so the reason I went with the space pack is it is the only one that I have found so far that's air to water that has no water outside,
yeah,
and the compressor is on the outside in the outside unit because I wanted the noise outside.
yeah,
I looked at a couple of others. I think the Nordic is another one that's a refrigerant piped between the indoor and the outdoor, but the compressor's on in the inside unit, and I don't quite understand why they would put the compressor inside.
hmm,
I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me, but obviously I'm not an engineer. But there's got to be some reason they did, but I have not quite identified what that is.
yeah.
So we didn't go that route. There was a couple others that I kind of looked at, hemmed and hawed. Space Pack, when I was talking to the manufacturer's rep, it seemed like it was good to go. And I I underestimated how far it was from where the outdoor unit was going to be to the mechanical room.
Oh,
And
like how much like were you close, or was it like, oh, this is never going to work?
like 6 feet,
Oh,
right? And so
so
I'm like,
what's the
okay,
limit on that space pack on the refrigeration lines on the
35.
line set? 35
35 feet.
feet? That's not
That's
very
it.
far.
It's not very far. And I'm not going to say in my defense because I wholeheartedly own
Yeah,
this
yeah.
debacle, if you want to call it
Well,
that.
because you had the unit on the ground, right? You had it sitting there,
Oh
outdoor
yeah,
unit.
it was. Yeah, the outdoor unit was piped. I had Miles up there for a day. He got the outdoor unit pipe. He excavated the existing line sets where they exited underground, and we cut off one of those line sets and rerouted through that same sleeve back into the house, across this. I don't know what you call it, like a common space at the bottom of the stairs
Yeah.
between a wine cellar and the mechanical room.
Oh yeah, of course. Wine
Yeah,
cellar.
all this exposed piping and ductwork in the ceiling, so it wasn't that big a deal. We just put it right back on the trapeze hangers that were there, and ran it in the mechanical room. And in my mind, I was like, oh, this space across here is like 18 or 12 feet, right? It's not that
Yeah.
big. It's 12 feet from the outside wall to the mechanical room. That gives us plenty of line set. We're going to have 10 or 10 feet outside. We'll have 12 inside. We'll be able to get over and down the wall, and we'll be there. And Miles calls me like end of the day, towards the end of the day, and he goes, "Okay, well, I got Rob came up, gave me a hand. We got this line set pulled in, and it extends into the mechanical room like 3 feet." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
He's
All
like, "Well,
the.
yeah, it sticks in the mechanical room like 3 feet." And I'm like, "Okay, so you have some that you cut off?" No, that's it. Like it's going to extend into the mechanical room like 3 feet. And I'm like, "Oh, that's not good." Because now I'm
Mm-mm.
thinking like, well, how do we move the unit closer to the house? And the big deal is
Oh,
that,
closer to where it enters the house. Yeah.
yeah, how do we like suck up the 10 feet outside and put it like 6 and put 4 more feet in the house? You play that
Yeah.
whatever the numbers game. Start sliding things around. And he goes, well, I've got the unit outside, like just around the corner from the end of the gallery, the hallway. They've got this long hallway that's got art in it, and you look out the end windows, and there's floor to ceiling glass. To the right hand side of this is where this space pack was sitting. And I'm like, when I told Miles, I'm like, well, when you set this thing up, I need you to come back inside and make sure that you can't see it.
Yeah.
Right? Like you cannot be able to see it. And he's like,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
And in his defense, he didn't do anything wrong on it, but he set it up so that you couldn't see the unit, but you could see the line set where it came out of the unit and went in the ground.
Okay.
And that sounds like a big deal, or this doesn't sound like it's that big a deal, right?
Well,
However, we had specific instructions.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because you said I don't want to see the unit, so he set that up, and then he ran the line set, and then everything had to be moved another 6 inches or something.
Right.
Foot maybe.
And so it was like, okay, well, how do we do this? And I it was one of those deals where I was like, well, I'm gonna think on this over the weekend, and I'm gonna think long and hard, and so that was like on a Thursday. So I think I called Space Pack on Friday, talked with a rep again, and I'm like, okay, how much can I add to this before I get myself into trouble?
Yeah.
And he goes, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I need to add like 7 or 8 feet, maybe 10. And he's like, don't do it. And I'm like, really? Come on. There's no way it's
Wow.
like 35 feet. And he's like,
Wow.
don't do it. He's like, it'll void the warranty. He goes, I've seen him do it before. He goes, if we come out and we have to do a factory service call because something doesn't work right on it, and we measure up and it's, 41 feet, he goes, that's on you. And we're not, and they won't play. And I was like, okay, all right, that's not cool. Now what? Kind of thinking, I'm going to put this indoor unit upstairs or basically at the ceiling level of like 12 feet off the ground.
Oh my God.
That's where it's going to hook up. And I'm like, this is stupid. And so
did you have to go back out there in the meantime after you told them so you could put your own eyes on it? I suppose that's kind of like the next step because you weren't there.
Yep. And basically what had happened is, so in between the time that Miles had basically said, hey, this, and I was thinking and making phone calls, the homeowner over the weekend, he sends me an email and he says, hey, we need to talk. Call me.
Yeah.
And so I did, and I called him, and he's like, yeah, it's not going to go there. And I was like, okay, I get that. I said, what do you got? And so I went up there on Saturday, and he was out of town. He works out of town. So I met with his wife, and we looked, and she goes, yeah, no, this is what we can see. And I looked, as soon as I walked in the front door, you look down the hall down there, and I'm like, yeah, nope, that's not going to fly.
Yeah. Well, you already kind of knew that, but yeah,
I kind of knew that. Yeah.
Unfortunate they had to tell you. Which, if you would have said,
yeah,
hey, we're trying to figure something out, and by the way, sounds like it got put in the wrong spot and we need to move it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
unfortunate you didn't get to give that, because if you would have said that, I bet
Right.
the homeowner would be like, oh yeah, that ain't going to work, and just would have not had to call you or anything like that.
Exactly.
That kind of stuff is the stressful part. To me, is stressful because I hate having to have that conversation when it comes from them. I'd rather tell them the bad news.
I'd be like, yeah, I don't like this. I don't like the way this looks. I'm going to move it. Yeah, before they say you need to move that because it looks
yep. Yeah. And you can apply that to so many scenarios.
Oh
And
my
usually
gosh.
I've said it so many times. I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm not happy with this or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's way better. So
Yeah.
so the week you go through the weekend, you've decided you're gonna change over the weekend. Is that you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna go. What, you were on the computer the whole weekend looking for the right piece of equipment, weren't you?
Oh yeah. No, and so I was looking at Google Maps. I'm looking at their house from an aerial view, and I'm like, okay, well maybe I could do this. There's a chase way that goes up next to the venting from the roof down through the main floor of the house into this like concrete. I don't know what you even call it. Chase, basically a concrete chase. It's like 3 feet deep and like 6 feet offset from the mechanical room. And I'm like, well, I think I could get from the roof down through that. We'll get a roofing contractor to come in and put a new roof flashing on it. It's a TPO membrane roof. I'm like, we'll just put a new roof flashing on it, and we'll go down from the roof. We'll put the outdoor unit on the roof. I'm like, yeah, that'll work. That'll work. I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, measure it. And I'm like, man, it's really close.
Oh, and you're trying to make the 35 feet work.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had given up on it. And that was on Saturday. So I was on the roof on Saturday while I was up there looking at it. I'm looking at the outside unit. We're like climbing through the crawl space, and I'm checking. I spent a couple hours up there on Saturday.
Did you get to that part where you're like, I think I got, and you almost have that, like, I don't want to say you're relaxed, but you almost have like that little bit of joy, like, okay, confidence. Maybe that's feeling of confidence. Like, okay, we figure this out, and then you figure out you didn't. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I totally do.
I hate that because, of course, well, everybody hates it. I mean, I don't even know what to say that, right? Yeah, but the idea that you just, you just figured it out, and you're like, oh wait, no, I didn't figure nothing out.
Damn it! Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. Okay, so. And so there Saturday, the roof option isn't going to work. Then what?
Yeah. And so I'm trying to remember what the deal is. I called him, talked to him, and I'm like, all right, here's the deal. I hate this thing. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I just don't like it. There's a couple of things. I think we could work through it. The fact that we're going to work through this one option, and we're going to put the unit on the roof. And to boot, this thing, the roof or the outdoor unit weighs like 435 pounds.
Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah,
it's like 58 inches tall. It's like a big 2-fan, 5-ton, mini split outdoor unit. It's big.
Very heavy. Yep.
Very heavy and top heavy. And so I'm like, I'm going to put this up on his roof. And so I'm standing and before I left there, I go drive out of his driveway, and I get up to the main road, and I'm like, okay, I need to walk to the house. And I walk to the house, and I'm like, there's no chance
you won't
I can put this thing on the roof where you can't see it.
Yep.
Because the house is set underneath, elevation wise, the house is probably 30 feet lower than the driveway where you enter. And it's a big, long, windy driveway. Beautiful. Like I said, very nice place.
Ain't gonna work.
Nope, we're out. And so on the way back home, I'm like, we're done. Pull the plug on that. We're done. I mean, that isn't going in. And I was driving home, and I was pissed. I was mad at I'm mad at myself, not at anybody else. Nobody else did anything wrong. This solely sits on my shoulders. And I'm sitting there going, God dang it. How did I miss that?
Do you think that this would have happened? Like, you knew the length requirement for that line set?
I did.
Or did you not? But it wasn't top of.
I was like, well, we got that by a mile.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Because you had underestimated that side. Okay. So is this really? Because, I mean, we know what happens next. You go to a different piece of equipment. But And so the details of that probably quickly would just be, hey, you told the homeowner, like, I think we're going to go with something else. They were okay with that? Like it moved pretty quickly or
Well,
what?
yeah, I mean, basically, I talked to the homeowner, and I was like, hey, listen, here's the deal. There's a couple of things I really don't like about this now that it's sitting on site. Now that it's boots on the ground,
Yeah.
I
What is
don't
the
like
things you
this.
don't like though? I mean,
Well, the control strategy that we were going to have to employ to make this communicate and switch over between heating and cooling and not cause the boiler to fire up or not have both running. There was all this interlock that I was going to have to try and figure out so that we didn't call on first stage of heat for some reason in one zone and have forced cooling going in the other zone. So there was a handful of things going on that I didn't like. The house already has some really funky wiring.
I thought those space pack units you could run a hydronic coil off that thing,
You can, yeah, you totally can.
but
And,
you weren't going
and
to do that because you already had the boiler connected to it system.
right, we were not going to
Okay.
utilize the heat pump. They got natural gas. He's got some solar, and he and I had the conversation. We were just like, hey, this. Here's the thing: it's not low temp heating. It'll do like I think it's 5. At like 5 above, it hits its rated capacity. So he totally could have done some geo or some space heat off of it, and not that we couldn't, but it was just like, okay, now what level of control do we go in with? Do we have 3 stages of heat now?
Oh,
Like,
meaning this space pack stage 3
well, or is
or
it
for
2?
cooling.
And then the boiler stage 3
Oh,
on the fan
what
coils.
what in the world is going
Because stage
on?
one's the radiant floor.
No, I already hate this. It's
So
it's not a equipment problem though.
no, 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 no. There's nothing wring with the unit.
Yeah, okay. So
Nothing,
I think
nothing
it
at all.
finally needs to be said though, because it sounds to me
Yeah.
like it's just a messed up system
It, it, it's
that
it's a
wasn't
it's
thought
a
through the first time around, and now you're,
yeah,
2 dozen years later, whatever it is. That's the problem with these older systems, and and you had
yeah,
too many people making crap up. That's really what it comes
right.
down to. Oh, we can do this and we can do that. And we can why? Why?
Right,
As
right.
much as I want hydronic heat, if I can't
Yeah,
then pull it together with a different backup system, or not backup because you don't need a
right.
backup system, but if I can't control it logically with another system altogether,
Yeah,
then what for? And it has nothing to
yeah.
do with hydronic heating either. I've seen
Nope.
it with other systems too, but usually when
Yep.
it's
It is.
force air ducted with a central, split, unitary cooling system, like it's not that big a deal. It's not,
No.
and that could even be a heat pump. That's fine, but
Yep. And so that was where my dilemma was at. And then I'm like, okay. Part of me was like, well, we have these 18-year-old air handlers, and we were going to reuse those because they were in there, right? And the reason why we're reusing here's my logic behind why we were reusing.
they were too
They
big and loud.
only they were too big and loud, and they only came on as backups heat source. So they had like maybe a handful of hours of runtime on them in
Oh,
years,
yeah.
right? Because the radiant floor does everything
The
until it
problem is
doesn't.
that the freaking blower is going to go on it,
Oh,
and
I
it's
know it.
probably going to some dumb,
Yeah,
ridiculous, expensive
yeah,
blow.
yeah. So
So
that's
what?
strike
So
number 3.
okay,
you
all
know,
right, yeah. So we're 20 plus minutes into this.
yeah,
How do we move forward? Because I saw the video, and like I said, I got
yeah.
nervous because I thought you were going to start bashing,
No,
which
no,
is not something I would ever expect you to do. By the way,
yeah.
that's why I
But
even
it
bring it
sounded
up.
like it. Yeah.
It sounded like you're going to be like, and we rip these things out, and I'm like, oh crap. So
Oh,
you,
here we go.
or not
Yep.
these things, but this thing. So you ripped out the outdoor unit because it just isn't.
Yep.
You can't make it work.
I
It's
can't
not
make it work.
flexible enough for you.
Here's the deal. I could have made it work. I could have done it. It
Sure.
wouldn't have been without high risk in would it actually function correctly like we
You mean you'd be making trips back, and this thing isn't gonna.
I
Yeah, it's not just a plug and play thing.
the next 20 years I'm going to be playing with this thing. That was in the back of my mind as I was like, how many things have to be just exactly right for this to work?
Yeah.
And there were way too many. And I just said, okay, you know what, we're done. We're not going to do this. I don't like it. Um, it's out of here. And I
Yeah.
loaded it up on the trailer. And again, it was another one of those days, a lot of tension, a lot of stress. And I was like, you know what? I think I had the afternoon was open on my schedule. Somebody had canceled or something like that. And I went up and picked that unit up, and I was like, oh, I got a pick and a shovel in my truck. I'm going to dig like 50 feet or 40 feet of ditch, and I'm just going to wind myself back down, you know. And I dug ditch for 3 hours in the sunshine, and it was like, okay, I got done, and I'm like, all right, I got a ditch dug, let's go to work, you know.
Why were you
And
doing that?
because I was pissed,
No, why
and
were
I
you?
well,
Did you have to
because we
dig
have
up
to
the line
move.
set?
Well, I had to dig up the line set that we had, but ultimately the new unit couldn't go where the old one was at. That's part of the problem. And he
Gotcha.
wanted it. He goes, well, if we're going to do it, I want it over here. And so
Totally different area. Yeah.
it's on the north side of the garage where the gas meter and the electric meter's at, and
Oh,
all the
well, there you
solar
go. Makes
panels. It's
sense.
where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, so there's like, I don't know, is there 40 feet, 35 feet of line set outside the building now
Yeah.
that's in the ditch. So I was just like, you know what, whatever, I'll dig ditch. Sometimes you get a good, I don't know what you call it, a thoughtless, I don't, thoughtless is the word, like
Mindless. Just
mindless.
say
There you
what
go,
say what
mindless.
it is.
Yeah,
Just say what
yeah,
it
a
is.
good mindless activity to
Yeah.
just
We ain't,
think,
you ain't picking
get
on
your,
anybody.
yep, get your head squared up, and so that's what I did. I dug ditch.
Yeah. Well, I'm a professional, licensed, and certified goon scoop operator. I know what you mean when
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you just got to dig a ditch.
Yeah.
So you went with a Mitsubishi unit.
Yep.
Is
We're
it?
putting a smart multi in there. It's a 5-ton
Yeah.
smart multi. We've
Oh wow.
got four SVZ air handlers going in there. So we pulled out the old air handlers. We're leaving the existing hot water coil, and that'll essentially be third stage. If not that we're ever going to need it, the heat pump will be um, basically first stage of heat, and we're going to do an basically an interlock to make the floor heat take over when it
What
gets
are these air
down low
handlers
enough.
even heating if the whole place is radiant? I don't even
That's the
understand
thing.
that
There's no
aspect.
reason for it. Yeah, we're gonna
Oh.
the nice thing with it now that we'll have actual true variable speed air handlers is
Yeah.
that we'll be able to do a bunch of IAQ stuff. We'll be able to do high end filtration. We're going to be able to do humidity control. Some of that kind of thing that we weren't really able to do before because they were so stinking noisy.
They'll probably use the thing on dehum just constantly, and they probably won't even have to go into cooling mode.
No, that's
I
probably
mean,
what
that's what
it'll
it
be.
sounds like.
Yeah, yeah,
So let me get this off my chest. I hate
yeah,
I've been involved in these systems for 25 years.
yeah,
From way back when we were doing new construction, everybody's got to sit around and be like, this is what we should do. This is what we should do. Everybody's like making stuff up, shooting from the hip. Not
yeah,
like they didn't know what they were doing, but everybody wants to sell their thing that they're good
yeah,
at.
yeah,
And nobody wants to stop and go, well, it doesn't matter if I like it or not. This is the best thing for the job.
yeah.
You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
so yeah, have you ever come across any heat timer controls?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's what this house had in the beginning.
Yeah, of course it did. Why wouldn't it have
And why
that?
wouldn't it?
I mean, why? Maybe,
Right.
maybe you could tell me next that there was pneumatic thermostats.
No, but it had a slant fin Concept 21 boiler in
Oh, there
it.
you go.
So
There you
yeah,
go. Yeah. I'm actually surprised you didn't tell me it wasn't a copper fin. You have a lot of those out there.
we do have a lot of them.
Um,
Yeah.
no, I just get so fed up with it. And I'm by no means an expert on all of this, but I get so fed up 25 years into a house and people are still like, well, it's never been right. And it's because of that. It's because they making stuff up and nobody knew exactly or wanted to admit or
Well,
got the
yeah,
right person involved and just put the right thing in. You know what I
you know,
mean?
it's funny because you look at so I was listening to Build Show podcast this morning when I was cleaning the shop. I was telling you this earlier, And I don't remember what episode exactly it was, but they were talking about building things wrong and having to fix it.
Yeah.
You know, why am I drawing a blank on his name? Is it Matt?
Jake or Steve or Matt. Matt's the host.
Matt? It would have been Matt. I think Matt. I think it was Matt was this telling the story of one of the first houses he built on his own that he general contracted, and the concrete guy came in and poured this goofy like mono slab, and there was no insulation on the slab, and they were doing these like crazy R35 walls or something on top of it, and there was this big dilemma like how are we going to insulate the slab, like that doesn't like we can't now, you
Yeah.
screwed this up, it wasn't supposed to be done that way. And anyway, they ended up raising the building basically
The thickness
10
of the
inches
insulation. Yeah.
right, and put joists under it or something,
Oh.
built a joist system suspended above the concrete slab so that they could insulate that, and then the slab was unconditioned, they just didn't use the slab.
Oh.
You know, it was like crazy. But that's the same kind of thing that you do here. You don't. I mean, you go to that extent, and you go. You're not going to have a good conversation with the customer if you walk in the door with the customer and go, "Oh, by the way, we totally botched that, and you're going to have to buy another one."
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the background on this thing is now sitting in the container right next to the studio here on the other side of the wall. There's a $12,000 space pack Solstice heat pump that's sitting there out of the box that I can't return. So
You'll
I
totally
got to
be
find
able to
it.
install it there, though.
Yeah. Now that in this particular political environment where we're really looking at this whole electrification thing, I'll sell it somewhere.
It won't even take. I bet you have that thing sold before the end of the summer.
I'm hoping so.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, just even being realistic, I think you're gonna
Yeah.
have it.
Yeah. But where I'm at with it right now is I'm trying not to be like, oh, this is going to be a perfect job for it. Oh, that would be even better job for it. Oh, we should use it over here. Like
Yep.
that, because you got that knee jerk reaction to just,
No, I
hey,
know,
let's
I know.
unload this thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm like gun shy. So,
Well, yeah.
whatever.
It's not even gonna take any time. I guarantee it.
No,
How did
no. So,
how did the guys react when you told them, "Oh, we're gonna do"? Because I'll tell you, as much as I want to be like, get over it. You got paid
yeah,
to do something. You get paid to
yeah.
undo it. It is very frustrating.
It's super frustrating.
Remember back when you used to do new construction? This is really no different than that. And you'd rough something in as per print and plan.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, but we're going to change the height of this. It's now we're going to have a countertop over the laundry now. And so everything has to drop down, or it's going to be a stackable now instead of two side by side laundries. And for some reason, like there's just like this inner child that gets all like butt hurt. That you have to redo something that you did stupid. That was perfect. Yeah, that was perfectly fine.
Yeah,
because it was right, but then they changed their mind. And I say it the way I do, and I just pointed out the fact that it still sucks, even though I know you get paid to do it. And you get paid to undo it, and then do it again. Like I get that.
Yeah.
But so my question, long story longer. How did they handle it? They were okay with it, or was
they're fine with it. I mean, we're right at the moment where we're still trying to identify exactly how the outdoor unit is either going to be attached to the house or the garage rather, or attached to a concrete pad or to some sort of earth brace thing. I'm not sure yet.
Oh, you can't just put a pad down and set it on the pad?
He wasn't super keen on that. No, we totally could. Totally could.
So there's this place here in Minnesota called Heating and Cooling 2.
Yeah.
I wonder if anybody listens that works there. That's a sheet metal shop. They do install, replacement, new construction, remodel, air heating and air conditioning. They do a lot more than that, though. They manufacture some stuff that is sold in the supply chain.
Interesting.
And they manufacture what are probably the most useful, most comprehensible, simple, and well thought out outdoor unit stands for these mini splits.
Interesting.
They're so simple and they're powder coated, and you look at it and you go, huh, the
I'll
factory
have
ones
to,
suck compared to these things.
yeah,
But we
I'll
just
have
put
to
them
check
on a
them out.
pad, and then we just use one hole straps,
Yeah.
and because they're 3/8 rolled stock. It's 3/8 rod, basically,
Oh,
that
interesting.
they build this framework out of, and then two
Huh.
sliding brackets for your mounting your unit on. It's so simple, it's ridiculous. It's like a hoop on the top, hoop on the bottom, and they're
Yeah.
the large bottom hoop is larger,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Well, is
Anyway,
that the one that
you've seen them in the
Ringer
videos. Yeah,
Ringer you? Yeah. Okay, I saw it.
you've seen
I
them.
saw it on the
You've
video.
seen
Yeah.
them. People always ask, like, who makes that stand? It's made by a local, like
Interesting.
basically a competitor, right?
Right.
And they
Right.
sell them at all the good wholesalers stock them, put them that way.
Yeah.
That's how nice they are, and they just make them right,
Yeah.
20 miles from my house. But anyway,
That's awesome.
I was, that's what the few systems I've done with Ringer. That's what he buys, and he's like, just buy these things
Yeah.
from Heating Cool. They're the
Yeah.
heating cooling 2 ones, and just like, don't buy anything else. Don't buy the factory. This no, these are junk. And then he's like, and then you just put 4 clips on the bottom and zip, 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 right? Because we just put
Yep.
them on plastic pads. That's all you're going to see here.
Right.
That's pretty much everywhere.
And
That's what you can
this
get.
one was this one was going to be on that, and like I say, now it's elaborated. It
Yeah.
may have a poured in place 8 foot tall by
Oh, of course.
4 foot retaining wall or screen wall with
Yeah.
a 12-inch return, and that
Some
may have a
field
footing under
stone.
it. Yeah.
Better have
So
a footing under it as tall as you just described. Yeah.
yeah, but it's not going to be attached to the house. It's going to free float from the house. So
Yeah.
here's the deal. Matt is awesome. He's been a phenomenal customer, and I don't question anything he says he wants. He has a vision of what he wants things to look like, and that's what it's going to look like.
I'm okay with that.
I'm
I have a
fine with
custom.
that. I'm
Yeah.
totally fine with that.
Yeah. I have a
Totally.
couple customers. I've said in the past too, I've mentioned it before. A builder I worked for a million years ago, he shall remain nameless. But that guy could walk into a room, mark out all your fixtures in a bathroom. Here's the swing of the door. Here's the cabinet base with the sink. Here's the sink base itself. All this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that's awesome. And then so that person, he would like overdo it on that end. And then if we were trying to figure something out, he was the guy that like, no, just wait until I give you some drawings. Like, because he knew,
Yeah.
but the only way that somebody like us could understand what he knew definitively was if
Right.
you get numbers and here's the dimensions and
Here's this.
yeah.
Yeah. We
Because
did a remodel.
that conversation is hard. We're like, no, I don't know if
Oh,
I
man.
want it to look like that. Like, well, I don't know what you want it to
Yeah.
look like, but
We did a
give me some
remodel
numbers,
for
I can follow them.
Yeah, for an architect who's a very type A architect, in like very, very, very detailed, and
Yeah.
he physically. So I was at an early on pre-construction meeting with him and the general contractor, and we're there looking, and okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna move this toilet, and we're gonna do this, and yeah, that's fine. And he hands me these two 11 by 14 drawing sheets, sheets of paper that are the tile layout for the walk-in shower and the tile layout for the bathtub that was going in the other bathroom. And I'm like, okay, this is the tile layout, and he's like, yeah. So this is the tile we're using. I have it in the garage. I've measured it, and this is the grout joint thickness, and this is to scale with grout lines. And I want this. Everything will line up and be in alignment. Here's where the handheld
like
hole's going to go.
Yeah, right.
Here's the shower head's going to go here, and this is the tub spout, and this is that. And I'm like, you know what? I don't care. That is perfect. You give me dimension drawings off of studs, I'm down with it. But if you tell me that the tile guy is going to come in and do a mud set tile, and he may be 1.5 to 1.75 off of that stud, no, we're not playing. Because I'm not going to be the guy that's got the pipe in the wrong place because the tile guy didn't put 2 inches of mud set on the wall instead of the 1.75 that you expect.
That's when you tell them, give me the dimensions exactly where mine has to be, and then we're gonna get it signed.
Yeah, and then the tile guy can figure this out.
Oh boy.
But
Yeah, so you ripped it out and you moved on. I mean, that
yep,
that to me, that's the big story here too, honestly, is that you had, I mean, without getting too deep into it, I think we know you had to make a decision on the fly. It just wasn't working. And you didn't push it. I think a lot of people, I think not a lot of people, I'm going to back that up. I wish I didn't say that. I think some people out in the field would have just got to that point and call it what you will. I'm just gonna, for ease, call it panic, and
yeah,
kept the wrong system in place. And
right.
well, you know what? A lot of people don't even have the opportunity to be like, "Hey, boss, this ain't gonna work," because the boss is gonna be like,
No,
"Oh no, you're gonna make it work."
you're
You
gonna
know?
figure it out. Yeah, extend the line
Yeah.
set. Yeah,
Right. Exactly.
yeah.
And yeah, and if
Eh,
you just, we talk about it and it's been talked about to death, but reading the manual, right? And
our TFM.
yeah, well, it's not that you didn't, but it's just
Yeah,
you know what? I fully admit the other day I was putting in a boiler I've put in about a dozen of now. That's not nothing either for this
right.
particular boiler. As you know, the CU3A, that's an expensive boiler.
Yeah,
And to put that many in, I think is actually quite the accomplishment. And I'm putting
right.
the latest one in, and it's summertime, which really ultimately sucks when you're putting in I hate putting a boiler
Yeah,
in the summertime because I know I'm going back. But I'm getting everything set up and I'm reading things seemingly in the manual for the first time, right? You know what I mean?
yeah. You're like,
You're
wait,
like, "Oh,
they
wait a
must have
minute."
added a section.
Yeah, they must
Yeah.
have added that
This is
little box
advanced
right there.
programming.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, "Wait, this does that?" Or, "Oh, I can't do that?" Oh,
Hmm.
It's funny how you learn,
Yeah,
because I have read the manual more than one time, not
yeah,
every single time. Because a lot of times you're doing the same thing as you did the last time. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah,
This just sets up. It's got one less zone or one more zone than the other one did, and
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Here's the
That type of thing.
password. I'm going to go in and change these 7 parameters, and away we go.
Yeah, but you had to make a decision on the fly, and I commend you. I think it's worth the pointing out that a lot of people are not in a position to do that. Unfortunately,
No, I mean it does. Yeah, it doesn't suck any less, but it was one of those things where I'm glad that I, in hindsight, and we're not done with the job yet, but in hindsight, I'm glad that I, at the stage that we did, that I tore that thing out and said, okay, we're not doing this anymore. We're going to use something that's better built for better suited for this project.
Yep,
And
yep,
I'm like I say, I'm thankful at this point that I was able to identify it when I did, and it wasn't, hey, we got the buffer tank full of water and
yeah.
we got all
It ain't
this, and
working. Yeah,
oh, by the way, we froze and broke 2 of the coils because
we can't get
whatever.
enough. Yeah, can't get enough flow through.
We don't
Yeah,
have enough
I know what you
flow
mean.
because I didn't calc that into it. So
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah. It's always
that's
cheaper
it.
to stop ahead of. Yeah, I know what you mean. Sometimes you don't love the solution,
Right.
but you might never like the solution. You know what I mean? Like what's right is right.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people understand in the trades because like it's that black and white. Like I love numbers and this works for me and I don't have to interpret nothing. What's right is right. You know?
Yep.
Cool. Right on,
Yep.
brother.
All right.
That was good. You better get
We're
back to
off.
work.
I know. I'm gonna pay for a heat pump.
See ya.
See ya.